Alrighty, guys, I'm just going to jump right in because I think we already know exactly what's been going on. So, for the first time in my lifetime, anyway, what has been considered a Supreme Court super precedent has been overturned, that being Roe v. Wade, of course. Here's my confession, right? I've always been very critical of people with what I call an optimism bias, right? That being, we'll never have another depression. We'll never have another world war, right? We'll never have a civil war. We'll never have mass, starvation in America, food riots, any of that type of thing, right? That's the type of optimism bias I've always been very critical of. Where my blind spot is thinking that when you have the Supreme Court lay out these social issues as like, no, these are rights now, that was safe, right? Because it had never happened before. And so I was thinking, it's never happened, never will happen. Fuck me. Now what we have to contend with is the fact that not only have they overturned super presidents, they're looking to actively do it again, right? So as Clarence Thomas has confirmed, he's looking at gay marriage, sodomy legalization, etc., right? There's other things on the chopping block. And the thing that we need to understand too is that we got lucky with, I can't even say we got lucky, but we had a leak, right? So there was advance warning that this was coming, right? That people had an opportunity to defend it. With these other things that are now admittedly on the chopping block, that doesn't even include things that they aren't talking about being on the chopping block, like Roe wasn't previously. Now we have to understand there's probably not going to be a leak a second time, right? So it's very likely we'll just wake up one day without our rights. Now, a very important point to make about all this. Number one, yes, it is the Republican agenda to do this. And yes, it is their fault. They are the ones who overturned these rulings. Absolutely. However, there are a lot of people online who are trying to pin it as only the Republicans and that you have to vote for Democrats even harder to make sure that we get Roe back. We have to vote for Democrats even harder to make sure that other rights aren't taken from us. And it's an absolute bullshit argument. Democrats have had 50 years to codify Roe into federal law. They haven't done it. Both of our last two Democrat presidents have campaigned on codifying Roe into law. Obama did it, then 8 years later, not a thing. Joe Biden did it, and now, not a thing. He's just let it go completely, as it is actively being taken from us. But this makes a lot more sense when you understand that Joe Biden back in 1982 actually voted in favor of overturning Roe, right? So this is who he is, okay? Joe Biden is not going to save you. The Democrats are not going to save you, right? We had the Democrat majority in both houses. They failed to codify Roe. Again, shocker. But here's the thing. The Democrats need this. They need things like gay marriage, like abortion rights, like just gay sex in general, to be on the chopping block in order for you to have a reason to go vote for them and for the shitty corporate candidates, because what else are they really doing for us? At this point, nothing. I think it's not even controversial, or it definitely should not be controversial to say that everything for the working class right now, just fundamentally, like economically in our day-to-day lives, is worse now a year and a half into the Biden presidency than it was before. And so without stuff like Roe, like Obergefell, there's no reason for people to go out and vote for them. And the Democrats know this. And so they're going to continue holding our rights hostage for our vote. What we should be doing instead is holding our votes hostage for our rights, for them to actually get out there and defend those rights. Now, here's the deal. What's next? Where do we go from here? I think really the only clear thing that I can even say with any amount of honesty is that we don't know how bad it's going to get, right? But we've definitely turned back the clock on civil liberties in the United States. And with everything else on the chopping block, we don't know what's next or how very quickly it can move, especially now that we have both parties, not just one, both working together to get rid of your bodily autonomy. Let me explain what I mean. You have the Democrats who are trying to force vaccine mandates, right? Again, I have to clarify, I'm not anti-vax, I'm anti-mandate. There is a difference, very big difference. Then you have the Republicans actively going against your bodily autonomy in your right to an abortion, right? And the Democrats are not fighting them on it. But what you have is you now have each party with half of the country doing their little chipping away at bodily autonomy, and then the other one does it, but then half the country thinks that it's only the other one's fault, and then backs their side when their side strips the rights of the other half as they see it. When in reality, it's two parties, really a uniparty, working together, chopping away, chop, 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 until you don't have your bodily autonomy anymore. Ultimately, we have to organize outside the system because those in power, our elected representatives, do not represent us. Does that make sense? We're at a point now where the veneer is really coming off. It's probably always been true that they don't really represent us past being strategically correct, right? Giving us what we want to hear, telling us what we want to hear. But we're really at a point now where it's very clear there's nobody who actually has power in the United States of America who is backing up our interests. It just doesn't exist. Understand, too, that when they come for things like, so for example, Roe v. Wade has been overturned. Abortion is now illegal in many places, and it's going to become illegal in more, right? It's 13 states right now had trigger laws that overturn abortion rights completely upon the repeal of Roe v. Wade. Now there are other states trying to do the same thing. Abortion is going to be illegal. It's very likely that gay marriage, gay sex, and other things like that are going to become illegal as well. People need to understand you're going to have a very important set of decisions to make in the not so distant future, if not already. Are you going to follow these laws? I'm not going to tell you what to do. I will tell you this, though. If I end up in court for breaking sodomy laws, just know I was clapping them cheeks.
Yeah, yeah.